Next section, it's the exact same idea. We've just got a new chart of common usage errors, common things that students get wrong, and then we have several instances where we have to find out what the correct usage is and underline that. Now, of course, I have everything in the world getting in the way of you actually seeing what I'm supposed to be looking at. So let me see if I can fix this problem. I'm just going to let that go away. Okay, there we go. So this project was harder than or than all other assignments I've ever done combined. So than is used to draw comparisons between things. So greater than, less than, more than, worse than, better than, all of those. And then is referring only to time. So I ate, then I went to school. Or if you do well in school, then your life will be wonderful. Okay, so those are referring to time, sequence, if-then kind of statements. So in this case, if we're talking about the project, well, we're comparing that to all the other assignments I've ever done combined. So that would be than, since we're just using it to draw a comparison, right? Next section, compound subject and verb agreements. So this is about conjugating your verbs, making sure you're picking the right form of a particular verb to match your subject. Your subject and your verb always match. That way you can tell who is doing what in a sentence. It just helps to structure your writing and make sure that everything follows and makes sense logically. Because if you mess these kind of things up, you'll sometimes say what you don't intend. You'll say things incorrectly, and it can be confusing for a reader or listener. So what this is specifically referring to are compound subjects and verbs. So this is where we've got a compound subject, meaning multiple subjects that are crammed into the same area. So we're referring to the same thing, like in that example there. We're talking about both cats and dogs. It's compound because we're referring to cats and dogs, which are sharing the same verb of make, right? And what we're saying here is that those are always going to be plural verbs since they are plural nouns. So it's going to be, in this case, make instead of makes, which you might talk about if you were using a cat. So for part one, number one, good students and struggling students procrastinate or procrastinates sometimes. Now in this, you can kind of use your teacher voice. Try to speak properly, and you will frequently know the answer intuitively. So in this case, procrastinate. Students procrastinate. Makes sense. We throw that S on at the end when we're talking about singular subjects. So a struggling student procrastinates would have been correct. So in this case, we're going to write in this line here plural, because that's the correct one to put here since we have plural subjects. And then we're going to put a for our, that's okay, I'll wait, PowerPoint. I believe in you. There we go. And we'll put a procrastinate for the correct verb. Let me move my video here. Pronoun-Antecedent Agreement. This is something kind of along the same lines. If you have a noun which is being referred to by a pronoun, so that's one of those words that can stand in the place of a noun, person, place, or thing. So instead of Jack, we could be talking about he. He would be the pronoun taking the place of Jack in that sentence. So what we're doing here is making sure that our subjects match their pronouns, which show up later in this sentence. Now, we're also throwing in here possessive pronouns, meaning that the pronoun he, him, her, she, that is being replaced by something showing possession, his, hers. They possess these things, so it's his or her word or something like that. So we're going to make these match. On this first one, James loaned their or his textbook to Josie. Well, James is a male gendered name most of the time. Of course, there may be a James out there who's female, I'm sure, but most of the time male, so we're going to go ahead and assume his. Now, if you want to use their as a third person singular possessive pronoun, you can do so. So in this case, you could say James loaned their textbook to Josie. This is something that has become a lot more common in recent years. Basically, the language is changing to conform to various social movements that are going on, where there are a lot of people who prefer not to have their gender assumed. So here we're assuming James is male, but we don't really know. So if you don't, you could say there to indicate that you are not putting that person's gender in place for them. That is now in works like this, a lot of the classic English teachers, the conventional knowledge, if you will, it'll say, no, you don't do that. You say he, his, or hers, or he or she, something like that, which includes both. It's clunky. It just doesn't sound good in your writing. I prefer using their for a third person singular. But there, don't take my word on that. That's something you could look up. It's legitimately a debate amongst English scholars these days. So if you're wondering, what happens when you want to study English for the rest of your life, well, you get to debate how to use certain pronouns. All right, moving right along. Like I said, we're putting his there because we're going to assume that James is a man, because every case I've come across, James would be a man or a boy. So this is one where it is the exact same deal, except you are writing in the pronoun yourself. The siblings planned a surprise party for whose parents' anniversary? Well, theirs. There are multiple siblings. Since there are more than one, we are going to use their, right? Now, if it was just the sibling, then you would use his or her, depending. I guess the brother or the sister, since you would have to know. Because, like I said on the last slide, you may use their as a third party, singular, possessive pronoun. So third party, referring to someone else, not me or you. Singular, just one. Possessive, showing that they own something, so their textbook. And pronoun, taking the place of their actual name. So big loaded line there, but that is some technical information for those of you who like getting into the mechanics of how the language works, right? Okay, last section. This one is a little tough. We're looking at single and compound and complete subjects and predicates. A subject is just referring to the subject, the noun that is doing the thing in the sentence. Now, when we're talking about predicates, we can mean both the noun and all of the words describing the noun, or every single different noun that we have. That's kind of what a predicate is getting at. Or, excuse me, that's what a subject is getting at. When we have a predicate, that's referring to the verb, the action of the sentence, what's actually happening. And then sometimes it's also referring to those details you get after the verb of how that happens. So we have a simple subject that's just referring to the word itself, nanny. The stylish nanny, it's still just the nanny if we're talking about a simple subject, or the tail. There's only one subject in these. It's one word. The subject is just the one word for a simple subject. And a simple predicate, that's just the one verb. So the nanny had. The stylish nanny had. And she could have style and flair or just flair. Either way, had is the predicate, just the verb and the action. But moving over here, if we want to talk about compound subjects and compound predicates, that's when we're talking about more than one subject and more than one predicate. So my parents and the grandparents. Now that is a compound subject. Both parents and grandparents are the subject, since we're talking about multiple groups. And a compound predicate, that's when there are multiple verbs, multiple things that are happening in the sentence. So I eat and sleep constantly. Eat and sleep are both our predicates. It's compound, it is both of them. Or my teacher plans our lessons and monitors our progress. So in that case, plans and monitors are our predicates. They are compound. It is both of them. And lastly, we have complete subjects and complete predicates. This is everything that's included in the subject section before your verb, and the predicate is everything that happens with the verb and after it. So all of those extra details that you get. So for complete subjects, the nanny had style and flair. It's the nanny, both the article describing the nanny and the nanny herself. A complete predicate in this case would be had style and flair. Both of those belong to this verb. It's part of that verb's predicate, making a statement about the nanny, since those two things match up too. Or for the second one, the dog's wagging tail was greeting me. The complete predicate is all of that wrapped into one. So then for our sections, part 1, we're underlining the complete subject and highlighting, or in this case, circling the complete predicate. So all of the words that go along with the subject and all of the words that go along with the predicate. It's kind of taking it from that tougher spot, and then it'll go down and down and down to more refined definitions. So for Jose's dog ate his homework last night. Jose's dog, that is our complete subject. It includes the subject itself, which is the dog. The dog is doing the action since it ate. And it is Jose's, which is a possessive noun as the beginning of our sentence, telling us whose dog this is. So that's our complete subject. It's everything included with the subject. Then our complete predicate is both the verb, ate, and everything that it includes. So the dog ate his homework last night. Since all of that is part of the verb, we're including all of it there as our complete predicate. Then we're going to look for compound subjects and simple predicates. So more than one subject, two subjects, or many, and just one predicate. So multiple things doing one thing together. So Jason and Jeremy competed. Jason and Jeremy are both our subjects here. They're the ones who are doing the action of the sentence, and competing is the action. They competed, so that is our simple predicate, our one-word predicate. Now the other round here, we are kind of throwing everything together. So we could have simple or compound subjects, one or many, and compound predicates. So we've got a lot of things to look for here. So for this first one, I'll wait for the thing to go away again because I'm bad at technology. There we go. My dog ran outside and chased 3 bunnies. So my dog is the only subject. The dog is the only one doing things in this sentence. What's it doing? Running and chasing. It ran outside and it chased 3 bunnies. Okay, so those are our predicates. Ran and chased. Remember, with compound, just the word itself, not the full statement. That's only for complete that you want the full statement. And that's the full packet. So please subscribe to this channel. Like I said, we'll have a ton of videos coming out to help you with your packets and just with some general things you should know for the end of the year. Of course, we all care about you very, very much, and we miss being with you a lot. I know that sounds crazy, but legitimately we all really miss being in school. So please subscribe.